You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
I'm now joined in studio by Paul Nolan, Managing Director of Adman Steel Sheds. Good morning, Paul, and thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Karl.
Paul, you might start by telling me a bit about your own background, please.
Okay, well, I went to school in the CBS in Escorty. Did the Leaving Cert there, went on to do an apprenticeship in tool making in ABS pumps in Wexford. There was a 4-year apprenticeship, so once we finished there, we done a little bit of work for a company in Dublin for about a year. Didn't really like that, and I ended up back in Wexford working for a general engineering company, Wilson Engineering, or Bernard Wilson. I suppose when I was working with Bernard, I was kind of quite friendly with Bernard. I used to do a lot of work outside of Bernard's place for myself, and eventually got to a time where, I kind of decided that I would go out on my own and we would start ourselves. And the funny thing about it is that when you're working at night time, you seem to have loads of work and you don't have enough time to do it. And when you go out and work full time, or when you do this full time, by lunchtime Tuesday, you finished all your work. So I was lucky in a sense that Bernard allowed me to come back in and work 2 or 3 days with him. And after about a year of that, we eventually got busy enough and we had enough work to keep myself going.
So you started Adman Steel back in 2004.
Correct.
Was it as a business specialising in sheds that you started with?
No, not at all. I would have started off doing general engineering and gates and railings and loads of different bits and pieces. And, occasionally we would have done a shed here and there and bits and pieces, but it didn't start off as all sheds. It took 2 or 3 years or so before we started concentrating on sheds.
So the demand was such for sheds that you decided to specialise in that particular area?
Yeah, I thought it was something that we could actually, it was a product that we could make and sell as a product, rather than people coming in wanting us to measure individual gates and railings and stuff, and everything was different. It was something that was the same. It was something that we could kind of, we could make a product and we could sell it as a product.
So the business started itself from home.
Yeah.
You then moved into a premises in Enniscorthy, and after that you purchased a premises in Ballycanoe in Gorey.
Correct. Look, we moved into Enniscorthy in 2007, and I suppose it was kind of at the height of the boom. Things were going reasonably well for us, and we had a couple of reasonably good years where we were able to gather up some money. We had money on deposit, and this particular building in Gorey came up for sale, and it suited us down to the ground. It had everything. It ticked all the boxes. It was close to Dublin. It had plenty of space for display area. It had plenty of space out the back to expand. It just suited us down to the ground. We had money sitting on deposit which wasn't earning us any interest rate, and we were able to put that money into the building in Gorey, and effectively, we halved our rent. We're paying half in a mortgage, probably we're in a rent, so it made perfect sense for us to move to Gorey.
Now, it's a very labour-intensive business, the manufacturing of sheds. Tell me about what you've done from a technological perspective to advance the business over the last number of years.
Yeah, probably. Look, back in 2007, 2008, we were fabricating most of our frames, and we used to have to weld and paint the framework. Everything was customers were kind of demanding that there was a galvanised framework, and literally what we did, we geared up for that, and we bought in 2 or 3 machines, 3 machines. One we got specially made in China. This particular machine, we now buy our steel in coil form. It's fully galvanised, and we roll it and cut it to length. So that cut 2 stages out of the manufacturing process, and really what it did, it probably made us a hell of a lot more efficient than if we had been still producing the sheds the same way as we were in 2007, 2008. We probably wouldn't be able to manufacture the stuff cheap enough now to be competitive, and so that now, it probably didn't play as big a factor back then, but now it really does. Have to be competitive, and we have to make our sheds as competitive as we can.
I suppose lots of business owners would see a risk in taking, a decision to deal with a Chinese manufacturer. What type of due diligence did you do at the time when choosing a provider and manufacturer of that particular equipment for you?
It wasn't as tricky as that for us, because we were dealing with a company in Donegal which had already purchased, I think it was 3 or 4 machines from this particular company, and they'd also purchased another 2 or 3 machines from other companies, but they were able to recommend and set us up with this particular company. So it wasn't as dangerous as it might seem.
Talk me through the process, with that particular Chinese company.
We had a designer, we had a section of a particular profile we wanted to make, and we had all the drawings and everything done up for this, and literally this particular company specialise in this type of machinery that they make, so it was only a matter really for us to send that company a section of the drawing, and they're able to price the machine for us and to produce a machine that would make this particular section.
Let's just focusing on the recession for a second.
Yeah.
Have you seen your business change much over the last number of years due to the current economic climate?
It has, margins are being squeezed, every day, every year, things are getting tighter and tighter. 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't need to have display areas to sell our sheds. Now we have 10 of them. That's a cost to our business every single year that we didn't have 3 or 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't need a credit card machine. Now it could be costing us 5,000 or 6,000 euros a year to have that machine there. So there's loads of different costs that have come into the system that weren't there before. So costs have gone up. Customers are being reduced all the time. So it's very, very tough.
Okay, you mentioned their display areas, and that seems to be one of the main ways that you're generating business. Explain to our listeners how that operates.
Yeah, literally what it is, we will find an area or find a garden centre that we think is a very good footfall or is an area that is very heavily populated, and we'll go and we'll approach that garden centre. We'll put in a display of our sheds, maybe 6, 8, 10 sheds in there, and we'll stock it with brochures, and we'd have loads of signs and phone numbers and all sorts of things in it. And that's really it, and we take inquiries off those display areas. Our salesperson will call out to the customers, and that's where we sell most of our sheds now.
How important is the internet to your business today?
It's very important. It's hard to know exactly how much comes from the internet, but most of our inquiries will probably start off on the internet. Somebody may be looking on the internet and they'll see that we have a display area within 10 or 15 miles of their home, and they'll probably see us on the internet first, then go to the display area and then contact us. So it's crucial. Yeah.
And what have you done to increase your product range over the last number of years?
I think back in 2007 we had kind of 2 products. We had our own classic garden sheds and we had deluxe garden sheds and garages. I think nearly every year we brought out a new product. I think we've 6 or 7 different product lines there at the minute, between insulated garden sheds and insulated garages and workshops. Last year we brought out a new product. It's home offices and garden rooms. They've gone really well for us. So I think every year we've tried to add more products, to the list that we already have. It's worked. It's helped.
The home office, as in you're converting a shed into an office itself. What brought that idea on? Yeah,
look, you're all the time trying to find new customers, and you're trying to increase your turnover, and there is a demand there for it. It is our garden rooms or our home office. It's an alternative to a log cabin. It's a maintenance-free log cabin for all the world. We have them fully insulated. We wire them. They're finished out with tongue and groove timber on the inside, and it's an extra room. And there's good demand. I think last year, we only started building them. I think it was January 2012, and we sold upwards of 50 of them last year.
And are you finding that the people that are buying those are those that might have had a bigger business in the past and they've looked to scale back and maybe even bring their office home with them instead of paying rent in an office environment in a town or city? Sometimes
it is part of it. It's not all of it, but there definitely are people out there that do use the rooms as offices. That's why we do call them their home offices and garden rooms. But a lot of the time, people will use them as playrooms, utility rooms. Do you know what I mean? We have a couple of people there with kind of artist rooms, where they do their painting and artwork.
Okay, you've certainly done a lot of work in relation to segmenting the market over the last number of years. What has the biggest challenge been for you?
I think the biggest challenge we had was in 2011. I think that was the year we got the heavy snowfall. basically our phone stopped ringing. That was it. When people see a foot of snow on the ground, they're not thinking of garden sheds, or they're not thinking, they can't even see their garden, let alone, thinking about building garden sheds and garages and that type of stuff. So, like, our phone stopped ringing, and it didn't start ringing until March or April. So, that was very, very tough.
So there was 3 or 4 months of very little or no activity whatsoever.
Traditionally, those months are very, very tough anyway. But that particular year, it was exceptionally tough, yeah.
So realistically, your own business, from a seasonality perspective, you have about 8 busy months and 4 quiet months. What do you do during those 4 quiet months?
In the last number of years, what we've tried to do is, any maintenance work, any bits and pieces that we need to do ourselves, we try and do all that in those months. Our model now is to keep adding these display areas. So every single year, we want to add, 2, 3, 4 good display areas every year. And that's the type of work that we want to do, from December to February. We want to be working at that. And, once we get to the end of February, we want to get ready to go again.
So are you offering this service nationwide at this stage?
Not quite nationwide. There are, sometimes we will go outside. 200 kilometres is kind of the range that we try and stick within. Because the nature of our products is that, everything we build, we actually have to go and fit it ourselves. Now, the model of our business states that, we need to go and fit our sheds or our garages, whatever it may be, and we need to get back within the same day. So, if you're driving for 4 hours, you'll also have to drive back 4 hours. So, the maximum, work you have then is 2 or 3 hours, and it's still a very, very long day for anyone that's doing the work. So 200 kilometres is kind of the maximum we have.
It's often reported that we're not competitive in this country to manufacture anything. Have you ever looked at outsourcing the manufacturing and maybe focusing on the installation or maybe just the sale of your product range?
I haven't really looked that close at it. I probably have thought about it, but the big thing for us is to have control over everything we do. What we find is the less control you have over, the stuff you're making, even delivery dates. Suppliers delivering stuff into you, they'll often let you down. Do you know what I mean? Which affects your business then, that you can't actually go out and fit it on time and everything else. So we find is the more control we have over the manufacturing end of it ourselves, the better. My view is that the more we can make ourselves, the better. The more control we have over it.
Just in relation to your own raw material, steel, we know that has reduced significantly in price over the last number of years, but there is talks on the market today that the price is going to increase in the years ahead. What kind of an impact is that going to have on you?
Look, we haven't got any definite word yet, but we did get an email during the week stating that our colour coated material, the exterior sheeting, was to raise, I think it was between 6 and 10%. If we get an increase of 10% on our raw material coming in, we probably will have to pass that on. Certain sizes, certain products we have at the minute, we have a little bit of leeway on that. We might not have, we could soak that up ourselves. And there's other products that, we would just have to add it on or to increase our prices. But, there's nothing set in stone there as of yet. There's only rumours there at the minute, but likelihood is prices will raise over the next couple of months, yeah.
So just focusing on the future for Adman Steel Sheds, what is it?
I think it's more the same. I think the biggest challenge we have is to not lose focus on what we're doing. We want to add more display areas every year, as I say, 2, 3, 4 display areas every single year. I think we can do that for the next 3 years at least anyway. So I think the biggest thing is to stay focused on, to keep the same model we have and stay focused on it.
Well, Paul, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for coming in and sharing your story with our listeners this morning, and I wish you continued success with Adman Steel Sheds.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.